Hello, hello, hello. Welcome back to Motivation Mondays. I know, we've really enjoyed the popcorn fodder episodes, and we still have 2 more episodes in the works. It's just the audio is a bit funky, so we are moving ahead of schedule with the Monday motivations while my brother and I work on fixing the audio for the last 2 popcorn fodder episodes. So yeah, let's sit back, relax, and get back into the groove of things. You missed me, I missed you. So let's get into it. So I'd like us to start off a bit slow with these motivational Mondays, Monday motivations, because there's going to be, a long gap between now and when the popcorn fodder episodes, the last 2, when they come back, So as we get back into the sway of things, I'd like us to ease into it with these little nuggets that I've been, nibbling on for some time now. These thoughts that have been floating and lingering in my mind. Thoughts that I guess will forever remain, for me at least. But things that I think are just useful reminders from time to time. Something to remind myself that I'm only human and I cannot predict or control everything. So I'd like to share this little nugget with you, keep this episode brief, and really maybe give you something to think about as well. And hopefully it can bring you some clarity and some peace of mind as you go off this week and do whatever you do. Hopefully we're all just out here doing our best. But yeah, without further ado, without, beating around the bush, let me get into it. Now, I've been thinking about the idea of control and this false perception that we have in relation to how much control we have in our lives. I think there are very few things that I myself have complete control over. There are very few things that I can say that my input is what determines the output, that there's a direct correlation, that there are no other factors at play, that it's me and me alone that is causing this output, right? Very few things. And everything else in life, I guess, is just a matter of chance, right? Right place, right time, or wrong place, wrong time. But unfortunately, I think as people, for our psyche at least, and especially I think with my experience of working with children, is how much security comes from predictability, right? The fact that you feel stabilized by the fact that you can predict all the elements in your environment. You feel like you're in control because if A, then B. If, C, then D. And it is a simple formula and it makes you feel safe. There's something comforting about that. Regardless of what that environment is, if it is predictable, right, then there's immediate ease and comfort that comes from that. Now, in moments where, random things happen, things that are completely outside of our control, those things shake us up, right? We feel unstable and out of control and lost in a sense, right? We have no way to ground ourselves, and that can be really scary. So I think because of that, we then you sort of try to blame ourselves in an attempt, I guess, to learn, right? To learn what mistakes we made that contributed to this situation, and hopefully in an attempt to never find ourselves in this pickle ever again. And I understand reflecting on your actions and your contributions to a particular outcome, but to constantly look at yourself with judgment and with shame, I don't think that is useful or productive in any way. But we do it. We do it every time. Something happens and we'll blame ourselves. We'll say, well, if only I had left the house 15 minutes earlier. If only I had sent that email in time. If only, if only, if only. And we live in this bubble of shoulda, coulda, woulda. I should have done that. I could have done that. Oh, if only I had known, I would have. No. You were operating on the information that you had at the time, and this is where it led you. And now you have more information. So next time you will use this information to inform your decisions moving forward. But that's all life is, really. A game of trial and error. A game of trying to figure out what works best for you and your life. How you can create stability is by sometimes shaking things up and destabilizing things for a while, throwing everything up into the air and seeing where they land. I think sometimes we get a little too addicted to the idea of comfort and stability and predictability that we end up holding on to things that are actually harming us merely because we can predict the pain. And that predictable pain is so much better than living a life of ease, where maybe somehow there might be a surprise pain now and again. And it's sad. It is really sad that that is how we are wired as people. But we are more than capable of changing our wiring, changing our predisposition for predictability, even if it is in dangerous spaces. We can make the efforts to slowly crawl out of that hole. But what that takes is it takes a certain level of discomfort. It takes a certain level of letting go and just trusting the process. And I know that sounds really, really hard, and it sounds like a whole bunch of nonsense. And low-key, you know what? It is. What is the process, right? Because if there is a process, then tell me the steps. That's usually my frustration with these whole trust the process nonsenses, right? What are the steps? What exactly is the process? What's the ETA on my, better life, better mindset, better whatever? Like, what's the formula here? But it's counterproductive because that is again trying to look for predictability and stability, and life doesn't promise us that. Life promises us experiences and opportunities to learn and grow, and that's all that is promised. Not good experiences, not bad experiences, just experiences. And it's up to us to decide whether we are going to let those experiences govern how we exist, determine how we see ourselves, or if we will experience these things, right? Observe them, experience them, and move through them to the next experience. Something beautiful by an author that I have forgotten, and if I remember, I will add her name to the bio of today's episode. But something really beautiful that she had said once is that sometimes the aim is not necessarily to survive whole and unscathed, but just to survive. And as much as she was saying that in a different context, right, I think for the context of this conversation, or what I'm trying to say here, is that the purpose of life is not to live having never been affected by anything, having not changed and remaining the same. That is not the purpose of going through life. The purpose of going through life is merely to live. We will go through life being, scathed and battered and bruised and hurt, but we will also experience joy and love and warmth and the safety of a friend's embrace, right? We will experience all of these things if we allow ourselves to live fully. And I'm not saying be reckless. Make smart choices. There are certain elements of life that are predictable, and lean on those things. But be very aware of how much you actually can control. And take comfort in the fact that the parts that you can control are the parts that affect how you experience everything else. You can control how you see things. You can control how you see yourself. You can control how much joy you allow yourself to feel. You can control how other people's opinions are going to affect you, if you're going to let them affect you at all. You can control how you present yourself to the world. You can't control how you are perceived. You cannot control how other people receive you, but you can control how you feel when you choose to present yourself in the world. You can control how you want to exist, what you want this life to feel like. That you can control. You can control how much love you let into your life and how much love you give. That is all under your control. You cannot predict how people will receive your love. You cannot predict anything when it comes to anything outside of yourself. And even then, we have chemical imbalances, hormonal disorders, and all these different accidents and allergies and genetic what's that even our relationship with our bodies and our minds may be something that we can't always control, but we can control our mindset in how we move through everything. You acknowledge that, yeah, I have moments where I'm really productive and really motivated and I'm on the go, and I have moments where I'm not, where I fall apart, where I fall off the routine and my apartment gets messy and wara fish paste and I'm not watering my plants as much. That happens. I go through that cycle. And to then view yourself and all the changes that come with being you, the imbalances, the unpredictability that exists within you, you can look at all of that with grace. You can choose to be kind to yourself, even in your worst moments. Even when you let yourself down, even when you do and are the most embarrassing thing ever. Even when you are filled with shame, you can be gracious and kind to yourself. This is something you can control. Is it easy? No. But it is possible. It takes practice. It takes lots and lots and lots of practice to see yourself with kindness, to give yourself the benefit of the doubt for once. It is entirely possible. And it's these things that you can control that make everything else a little bit more bearable. Because your muscle, right, this muscle that you've been building, this muscle that looks at things with grace and kindness, this muscle that is choosing to enjoy life, to find hope and to find a purpose in how they choose to conduct themselves and how they choose to interact with the world. That part of you that you can control will inform how you see even the worst of things in society. You might find yourself in the pit of despair and accept that, right? Sit in it, learn what you need to learn from that space, but then you will have the courage to move through it because you will know that I have been here before and I have overcome this and I will overcome this again. So I know that this is not a permanent state of being and I do not need to wallow in it. I will stay here in this feeling, in this mindset, in this whatever, for as long as I need, and then I will get up and go, and I will move on to the next thing. I will be whole again. Will I be unscathed? No. I am currently in the middle of a scathing. That is not the correct use of the word, I know. But you can still be in the thick of it and take comfort in knowing that this too shall pass. But for you to get to that point of truly understanding that this too shall pass, it requires you to be present in all moments of your life, to observe without judgment how you move through all of your moments, good and bad. For you to be able to have that track record in your mind to say, oh yeah, I've had moments of extreme joy, absolute euphoria, and those moments passed as well. I've had moments of dullness, of just numbness and disconnection, but those moments passed and now here I am in this moment. And one thing I can predict from all my other experiences is that this too will pass. I don't know when, I don't know how, but I know it will. And I take comfort in that sometimes. Even small things where I'm anxious about a presentation at work, where I'm just like, you know what? I can look forward to the other side of this. I have prepared as much as I can prepare, and I have equipped myself to the best of my abilities. Everything else is outside of my control. So I am going to place my energy in the moment once this is over, because I know it will be over soon or at some point. I'm going to look forward to the little biscuits that they have, you know, those like tiny little mini muffins or biscuits that they have in those meetings. I'm going to look forward. I'm going to reward myself with a little mini muffin once it's all over. I'm going to take a deep breath and release all this anxiety. Once I've done my presentation, I look forward to the calming exhale that will follow that presentation. I'm looking forward to the rest of my day after, you know, I've done what I've needed to do, because sometimes these things that you are anxious about block you from being able to see anything past it, right? The whole world is a terrible world because of this one thing. Your whole day is stressful because of this one thing, and that's not true, right? Sometimes we do struggle to see past these obstacles, but by being present and by being kind with yourself and understanding what you can and cannot control, it becomes easier to see the larger picture, to see that, yes, this thing is happening, but so is this and so is that. And there are actually good things happening at the same time, that we don't have to live our lives in black and white, that our lives are full of color, and sometimes we need the shadows to create contrast for the bright colors, but it all exists in one image. They all make each other complete. The one cannot exist without the other. So when these things happen, you can see it as a moment of you having a full life, that even the terrible moments add to the fullness of your life. So, I said that this week's episode would be short, and I am a woman of my word, so I will end things there. I hope you have a wonderful week. I hope you take comfort in knowing that you don't have to control everything, and that none of it is under your control anyway, that there are very few things that you can control, and that you can pour your energy into those things and see how everything else around you just falls into place once you spend your energy on the right things. So I will see you next week, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on how you manage controlling the uncontrollable. Am I the only one who somehow thinks that, if I just play my cards right, I might be able to predict tomorrow's weather or control it or affect it in some way? Because, having a bad hair day and then raining on top of it, it's all my fault. So yeah, let me know. Am I the only one who, I guess I don't want to say control issues, but am I the only one who tends to self-attack, I guess, when things go wrong, when it seems like everything is falling apart, when I'm faced with challenges? Do you also sort of blame yourself and go down the spiral of self-blame? Or is it just me? Have a lovely, lovely week. We'll see each other on Monday with another short motivation. And in the meantime, please take care of yourself and take care of each other. Goodbye.